Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach.
And I'm Pepper.
And today we're doing a chippy review on Mechs versus Minions, which is kind of a campaign game.
A small game.
Pretty small. I can almost not see us behind this massive box that does not fit in a Calyx cube, I don't believe. But
Nope. Oh, it's like a few millimeters short, but it'd be sticking out.
It would be sticking out a little ways. But yeah, we recently completed our full campaign of this one, along with Abby, so we played a 3-player version of it. It can go up to 4. But I would guess, just right off the bat, that anywhere from 2 to 4, I don't know how much differently it would feel like it's playing. I think it'd still feel like the same.
I think that 2 Okay, we're going to get into spoil it now. I'm just kidding. I think 2 players would probably feel different, because you're always drafting 4 cards.
That's true.
So you're going to be getting better at a faster rate if it's 2 players and everyone's getting 2.
3 felt probably about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've only played it with that. But yeah, so we'll get right into our Chippy rating. If you haven't watched one of our Chippy reviews before, the letters stand for different things and are kind of, there's percentages for each one, and we'll kind of just go through those. The first one being core mechanisms, and I'm coming in at a 7.5 for this one. I think it's something that definitely works. You're just kind of drafting out of these cards. It's a cooperative game, so you're kind of trying to work together, and then there's, 4 different color card types?
Yep.
And you're just kind of drafting them, and they do different things too. It's kind of a programming game where you have to set cards, and kind of you have like 6 slots, and you're slotting them in as you draft them, and you can stack the same colors on top of each other to make things kind of better, and they'll either move you or do some attack on things around you, turn you into different angles.
Each color has 3 types of cards. One is a move, one is a turn, and one is an attack.
Yep.
So very simple and easy. It's not like, oh, what are the 200 types of cards?
Yeah. I would say I didn't realize that. Like our first couple games, I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to look at these every time. But no, once you play it a couple times, you're like, okay, I know what those ones do. There's gonna be cards that I feel like I had cards that I always wanted, always liked.
You'll move to the side or forward.
Yeah, the Omni Stomp.
The Omni Stomp. I was going to say, you can remember it by the name. That's the only one we learned.
There's Flame Spitter.
Skewer and...
Flame Spitter.
Chain Lightning.
Yeah. But yeah, I think kind of that core system works. It makes sense that, when you put another one on top of it, it gets kind of better, typically. And, that throughout the game, there's ways to take damage, so then kind of can malfunction, change your machine up a little bit, so you might not do it in the correct order, and then you gotta go from left to right. So you're trying to set up a good order, usually kind of knowing what you have to do, and with the campaign mode, you're just kind of set up with different maps that you're kind of having to do some scenario, you're trying to do something.
Some objective based on whatever is in that mission.
Right. Yeah, overall, I think it works. It flows well. I don't think I was ever like, this doesn't make any sense, or anything like that. Once you've played it once or twice, then I think you kind of understand how the game works. But.
I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
For core mechanics. I really enjoy the programming of this game, and the fact that it is pretty simple cards, and it stays that way. And initially you're like, are they going to introduce more types? Because this isn't that many, but I think they made the right decision to just keep it to those few options there, which is still a lot of options and a lot of different ways that you can build your mech based on what you're trying to achieve, whether it's heavy attack or just heavy movement or being able to turn a lot. I felt like I did kind of build a few different ways throughout the campaign. But yeah, I just think it's handled so smoothly. Just drafting. There is a timed drafting that you're supposed to do, which we didn't really follow, which I think ended up in us doing much better than we would have if we
Mhm.
were strict on having to do it in this time, or else get a random
Yeah.
card, I think is what it is. So
Yeah.
I think that is why we were very fortunate throughout the game and very skilled. But yeah, I just really love the slotting and trying to plan it out, especially right away. You don't have to place it in the first slot. You can kind of leave gaps to where you might, like, oh, maybe someday I'll want a rotate in between these two cards, so you can leave that slot there. I think the damage is handled perfectly. Just anything next to you kind of damages you, and you might be an immediate bad thing you do. It might slot into one of your spots and maybe cover up an ability that you had built up there. Um, like you said, you know how to play it after a few plays. It's
Mhm.
never like, wait, how does this work again? How does this damage? It's very intuitive. Once it's like riding a bike. Once you play it a game or two, like you know how it works.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. I think one of the things with the damage, and you can fix damage or you can swap two
Yeah,
undamaged
I like.
spots as well.
Yeah, when you're
I do like
drafting.
that, but my only wish is that you could use just discard any. So you're either taking a card in that case or discarding it, and then on the bottom it either does one or the other.
Yep.
I would have much rather it just had both options. You
Oh,
discard
yep.
the card and you just get both. Because sometimes you really need to fix damage, and then none of the cards that come out fix
Yeah,
damage,
that's true. That's
which
true.
is really
Because you're
unfortunate.
already in that draft. You're already saying you're not going to get a card.
Right.
So, yeah, I could see that being on both of them, possibly.
Yeah. I think that was my one frustration
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
But otherwise, it is very
that makes
solid.
sense.
Then we get into history, which is a 10.
Yeah.
We played it at least 10 times. So there's that. Then we get into investment. So this is kind of like time invested. If you feel like the game has a good arc, feels like it ends about right, or if it feels like it just drags on. Um, feels like whether or not you're getting your time money out of it, sort of. Um, I would say for this one, I'm giving it a 7. I think it had a good pace of timing. There were some times that I felt like it was getting a little long, but I think that was a personal thing more than kind of the game because I don't think any of them really actually time wise went.
Yeah.
Maybe the longest went maybe like an hour and a half. I don't know. Maybe did it go that long, or was it longer than that?
Uh, Maybe just slightly longer for the
Okay.
longest one, but yeah, it's not
Yeah,
overly long.
yeah, and I would say for what it does, it felt like sometimes it was a little bit longer than I would have liked, but it wasn't at an obnoxious amount of time after. It wasn't like I felt like I'm sitting there for an hour and a half and I'm like, what are we doing here? Why are we still trying to? There was just some missions where you had to do certain things that just took additional time that were just
Yeah.
kind of frustrating. But otherwise, I think too, like the setup is a massive box, and
Yep.
there's a lot of pieces. Well, there's not really a lot of things going on, but it seems like when you're unpackaging, you're like, oh boy, this is gonna take forever. So, and it actually has a really good,
Yeah.
I think, setup and teardown time, especially if you're playing with multiple players and everyone's kind of helping. If you were doing it all by yourself, I guess it might take a little bit longer, but I think for that it has a pretty
Yeah.
solid time.
Really nice trays in there.
Yeah, the trays are good, which help with setting it up and tearing it down and stuff. So, yeah, overall, I think it does, and I think the games feel different. Kind of what you're trying to do in the different campaign things uh, feel different enough that it doesn't feel 100% like you're doing the same thing every time.
Yeah, I feel like
But
I gave it a 9. And like yeah, the programming of your mech, that's gonna be kind of the same
yeah,
thing there. But I feel like there's a good handful of different types of objectives, maybe
mm,
like 4 different kind of types of things that you're doing, and each of those kind of genres are feel unique. So there
yeah,
are a few where you're like trying to get something from point A to point B type of thing,
mm,
and those ones will feel kind of similar to each other, but each also have their own little twists. But then those also feel completely different than a totally different type of objective. Like more of a yeah. There's I guess I'll try not to spoil anything, but they're like each game yeah. I won't say anything.
Yeah. That's fair.
That is, yeah, that's weird. That's awkward.
But yeah, after we get done with this, you can talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
I think I could probably say it, but it's pretty obvious. But that's fine.
Okay. If you say so. But yeah, then we'll get into our first P of presentation.
P.
And this will be a little less awkward because I think I'm probably going to agree with you on this one. I am going to give this a 10. I think all the components and stuff are really good. The boards are good. Well, they're all great, I would say. The little minis are great. The organization, inserts are amazing. It's pretty top notch, I would say. I can't argue with that. It's really solid presentation.
Yeah, I gave it a 10 out of 10 as well. All the miniatures are amazing. You got pre-painted for your characters.
Mhm.
The boards, I just really love the art style. I think it's
Mhm.
just really colorful and really pops, and you kind of
Mhm.
have some UV gloss on some of
Some
the
of the
parts
boards.
on the map, and just everything is very clear, very well laid out, and like you
Yep.
said, the inserts amazing.
Yep, 100%. But here's where you're probably going to get a little bit, the second P of preference. We'll start with mine. And I will say this one is probably a 4 for me. I didn't hate the game, but I got to the point where I was not looking forward to playing the game. And I like it says, it's just preference. I don't know. It didn't excite me. Nothing about it really excited me, and kind of the campaign. There's things you kind of are unlocking throughout and stuff, and there's kind of sort of a story. I didn't really find that interesting. I would say
Yeah.
it's fine, but it wasn't. I wasn't like, ooh, what's gonna happen with this next round or whatever.
Yeah.
I just wasn't getting excited by that, and maybe it's the programming. Something about it just didn't click with me. It's very not Euro-y like my typical interest is, so it was just one that I was like, yeah, I don't know how often I'll ever want to play this after kind of the campaign. I'm sure you'll want to play it sometime, so I'll probably get it to the table because it's like I said, it's not like it's an insane amount of time investment into it. But yeah, it's not one that I'm ever going to suggest. But it's fine.
That's not fair. But my preference is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. That's kind of, it's a game that definitely falls more into my type of just like crazy, fun stuff going on, and every game, I mean, sometimes you don't do as well, you don't build as good of a mech. Even then, I feel like can be entertaining and can be funny. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm just going in a circle. I've been in the start the whole time. And usually other people are doing something more productive, and at least you can possibly still win that. You don't just drag the whole team down. And I kind of did a couple times. And then other times it does work, and you can move like 8 spaces with a couple cards, and when you move onto the minions, you just crush them. So you just killed like 6 minions, and then you can like build up your fuel tank, and then you take damage, and you just kill everything within 3 squares. And I'm like, and just the regular attacks as well. Those are like extreme cases, but just any time, it just feels like there's so many turns where you just kill like 5, 6, 7 minions, and it just feels so great to then put them. If you didn't get to track the minion kills, because you kind of track them on a track to then unlock additional things for certain levels, I just find that so satisfying, because the game comes with 100 miniatures, and if you only use each one once, you could go through all of them in a game. You could kill 100 minions. I think we've gotten close. I don't know if we did hit 100. I feel like we kind of kept them separate once, where it was like actually pretty close. So you do a lot of killing, and that's something that I love.
Yeah, that was probably one of the more satisfying parts of the game. I would agree. There were some that I liked. Some of the scenarios I liked better than others. For sure. But I was at the point where I was like, we actually did pretty well, probably because we didn't really
Yeah.
stick to the timer rules as much.
Yeah.
But if we would have had to replay, we won everyone, I think, in the first try except the final one.
Yeah.
And if we would have had to replay like multiple of them,
Although
I think
two
I
of
would've-
them, I went into the lava once on one of them.
what's that?
I killed myself on one of them once.
Oh, that's
That
true.
one. That was kind of a spoiler there.
I guess those
Um,
two.
Yeah, so two of them. But that one was at least decently early on.
That was pretty early. Yeah. I would say if it was like late in the game and it happened multiple times, I would have probably been getting frustrated with it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It-
I think so.
Yeah. I'm glad you had a great experience.
Yeah.
And I think if like programming is in your wheelhouse and you like that and like potential wackiness, I think this could potentially be a top game for you, top 10 game for you. It's just not my style. So then we get to It Factor. I gave it a 2.5. I don't know. Like at the end of the day, I was like, I don't even 100% know what we did with the whole. I mean, I kind of understood what we did with the story, but I'm like, that just
Yeah.
didn't seem that. I wish the story would have been more. I think I maybe could have gotten into it more if the story was more. But I also I don't play League of Legends or know anything about League of Legends really. So maybe if I had more of a background with that, like I think I might have mentioned to you, if it had been like Ratchet and Clank themed,
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if maybe I would have liked that more. I don't know if that would be a factor or not, or if it just what it is. I just doesn't work for me. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still a solid production. It's got presence.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Still, I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah.
Gave it the full experience, and
I give it a 9.75 for It Factor.
not a 10.
Not a 10, not quite a
Wow.
10. Just because I think it did, like you said, it didn't really have that much of a story that.
I think that was
really-
the most unfortunate part.
Yeah, it did kind of.
It had like envelopes and stuff, and
Because it had
I
like
wish it had
quotes from the different characters, and I like all that in the story,
Yeah.
but it felt like a video game without the cutscenes. That's kind of what
Right.
it felt like. Just like, oh, and here's the next mission.
more. Hmm.
They're doing this, so we got to do this. Which I enjoyed all the missions, but I think it lacked that a little bit. But still, I think campaign or legacy or any game that has some sort of story or evolution in some way, I think that always adds to the it factor, which is kind of hard to define for me what
Mhm.
it really adds to the it factor. So that plus just giant box, a wonderful presentation, and kind of a unique type of game. We don't have many other programming games, if
No.
at all.
I don't
I
think we
played,
do.
I think I played Robot Rally on, or whatever the one is called. I think I played an app that was like that, but
Mhm.
other than that, I don't really have any experience with this. So just kind of building your mech and having it just be wild and silly right away, and then turn into something that is so satisfying and so great later in the game is an experience that is different from any other game.
Mhm.
For me.
Yeah. So then, yeah, my total ends up being a 6.83, which actually didn't end up
No.
being bad. It actually is higher probably than it should be, just based on I do think I think the game works. I think it's an amazing presentation. I'm kind of I really wish I enjoyed what it did more. It kind of it's just unfortunate because everything about it works and it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I have this at a little bit higher, at a 9.29. So, I mean, it's pretty much everything, I think, that I wanted from the game.
Mhm.
The only thing I could want more is more.
Oh, boy.
Give us number 2. But I think as well, I don't know if it's spoilery, so maybe slight spoiler, but at the end of the campaign, spoiler alert, they do give you sheets of, you can go back through the missions and have these achievements that you have in mind, or you can start the game, I think, a little differently, or try to win this scenario without doing this type of thing that you can go and achieve. And I think that the missions themselves, for me, are fun enough that I would want to go back and try them again. But to add that extra little bit, I think that's really nice and would add to the more for me. I guess like you said, you probably wouldn't want to go back, and I don't think that convinces you just to make it harder for yourself
Right.
to even win those. But
I could see situations where maybe I would like that more, but
yeah.
maybe at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really pulled to go back.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you and Abby hadn't been as interested in it, I think I would probably just
Yeah.
have maybe quit partway
Yeah.
through and sold the game. But I understand different people, different tastes.
Yeah.
And maybe I would. If you guys were going back and doing it, I might play a one-off of it or something. Yeah, I wonder too if maybe spoilery still. If instead of just kind of having kind of story text, what little there was before and after the games, I wonder if they kind of did more of like Clank. Spoiler for Clank Legacy too. If they had more things where
Trigger this
triggers kind of additional commentary and stuff,
yeah.
where you're reading more often, kind of partway
Yeah.
through missions and stuff. I think that
Yeah.
could have maybe helped a little bit too. Although then, I don't know, maybe then it'd feel really long. I don't know
Yeah,
if that would
maybe.
make it better or not.
Yeah.
But
And this came out before Clank Legacy, possibly. I feel like this
yeah, I
has been
can't
around
remember.
a while. I'm not
I
sure.
think it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, any other spoilers?
No other spoilers other than the price, which I think was $100 when I got this. I don't know what it is now or how available it is, but again, can't stress enough how great the production is. You got
It is.
metal tokens in there,
It
and
is.
plastic tokens, and 100 miniatures, and 4 more, and even some more spoilery stuff. That is really awesome. And if you look at Kickstarter games, which are boxes that this is on par with that size
Yep.
and what's in there. Some Kickstarters are like $170, and it's a lot of cardboard only, and
Right.
maybe a few miniatures. This has a ton. They have washes on them, so just for components alone, worth the buy.
I don't know about that, but it is solid. I will say that as someone who doesn't actually really enjoy the game.
Yeah.
If it does sound like a type of game you like and you've been on the fence, I would say the production part of it is amazing, and yeah, it would be worth it then. But yeah, I think we'll have an unboxing video going up alongside this, so you can check out some of the components inside. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos, and as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.